Today is funny because it's the class I'm supposed to be really prepared. You know, because it's kind of the craft of cooking. It's the only thing probably I know about the entire semester, a little bit about. And I've been like freaking out about how do I do this? All of a sudden we have to do in 1 hour and 10 minutes, talk about the craft of cooking. And I requested to the university to have here a kitchen. And then they said we can't. Hey. Because insurance, insurance companies, man, I'm telling you. So anyway, we have some videos. So hopefully we'll be talking. So what I want to achieve today, what we need to all to achieve today, understanding the craft of cooking in this business of food. That if you think about it very much, without the craft, without understanding how to transform food into things that somehow become edible, really there wouldn't be humanity probably, or wouldn't be humanity in the way we think about it. So today mainly we're going to be talking about cooking and cooking techniques and trying to understand what cooking is, right? Because I think I showed you this in the first class, how we went from this moment in history all the way to this moment in history. And this is what to me is really fascinating. What happened in the last 1 to 2 million years that really made humans a very, very unique species. Because if you think about it for a second, what maybe really the most amazing thing that separates us from anybody else is that really we are able to cook our food, even if still is some people that did like this. And I think that simple understanding really gives us a sense of who we are. We are not humans because we put gas in our cars. Even you can say it's the only thing we know how to do and spend money. We are really humans because we are able to transform the goodness of the earth into things that are beautiful and tasty and delicious. So at one point, your ancestor looked like this. So let's try to understand what happened, right? If we agree that maybe we began as humans in some part of the world, controlling the fire between 1 million to 2 million years ago, probably really fire being in total control of a part of humans 500,000 years ago. That's a long time, but what happened between that moment where we were able at one point to be really controlling the fire? That's to me what is fascinating. I have a quick story to show you, to tell you about my father. And I don't know if I told you in the first class, but my daughters tell me that I look like grandpa, that I tell the stories of the war. So my father really told me that the only way I was going to be a cook one day was if I was going to be able to control the fire. And this lesson was taught to me after I got into a tantrum. I got very upset because he didn't let me cook. And so by controlling the fire, that is what my father put me in charge of, he really sent me the lesson that that's what will make me an amazing cook. And I guess to the degree, a human. So we're going to start because that's the craft of cooking, and I want you to see cooking. A dish that fire, it's essential, and where my father first taught me the big lesson about the importance of fire cooking. So I'm going to show you from my show. I'm not trying to promote my show, it's already old. I mean, we got great ratings, but it's old. But is what I have of this place in the coast of Spain that they make paella. Everyone knows paella? Great. The rice dish, one of the most amazing rice dishes in the history, where paella is the pan that gives the name to the dish. So when you say paella is the pan, when you say paella is the dish. And the one you're going to see is the only paella. Anything else is called rice dishes. Paella will be the one you're about to see. Chicken, rabbit, green beans, dry bean called garufo, olive oil, tomato, and rosemary. That's paella valenciana.
And from there, the imagination of these wonderful people will create thousands of dishes. But let's make ours. Paella Valenciana, the national dish in Valencia. ¿Qué tal?
Muy bien, ¿y usted?
Un besote, Javier, lo que estamos besando, ¿no? ¿Qué tal? Here, my friend Rafael Vidal makes paella like no one. Tío, ¿cómo estén?
Muy bien.
Hola, Fina.
Hola,
Un petó.
¿qué tal?
Oh, what a paella. So you see, this is a family affair. The grandfather, Rafael, the son, Rafael, the grandson, Victor. Wow. So the ingredients of the real paella are simple. Good chicken and good rabbit. Local tomatoes, great green beans, and the garrufo, the same flat bean I show you in the market. And what we're gonna do is cook it and cook it and cook it until it's very brown in the outside. If we give a very nice brown color, the paella is gonna be so much tastier. And you see, all the vegetables, the beans, the chicken, the rabbit, very roasted. Adding the water is gonna be boiling for a few minutes. What we are doing is creating a very nice, let's say, a stock, very flavorful. So you don't need to make a chicken stock. You're making the stock in the same paella pan. The most important thing in paella is controlling the fire. If you control the fire, you will be an excellent paella maker. And obviously, time to put in the rice. Ah. Now is the moment of truth. Oh. If the stock is good, the paella, you know, is gonna be extraordinary. Hey. Mwah. Now it's time to eat. It's not many times that you can eat one dish that when you eat it, somehow, it's like you are eating the farm, the landscape of a region.
Okay, who can make a paella now? Come on, how many of you? So you didn't understand anything. Great. So I wanted to show you this video because that's the essence of the national dish of that part of Spain, Valencia. Even many people would say it's the national dish of Spain. But this is the paella by the book. And again, you saw the importance of the fire, how the fire somehow is kind of kissing the rice when it's really, when the fire is really making the water boil at full speed. Really fire kind of, right? It's kind of, wow, above the liquid. And it's a very fascinating moment to see. This is one of the lifetime changing experiences. But then I show you something like uses fire to the max, right? Like, wow, pure fire, we make this amazing paella. But we need to start thinking that really the way this happened, way before we even began controlling the fire for the sake of fire, was how hunters began really understanding that anything they were able to hunt, they had to preserve. And if people live really high up, let's say in mountains, in cold places, ice, snow will be like a natural preserve, like it was a refrigerator for nature. But many people learned that they had to be preserving the goodness of the rivers, the goodness of the earth, especially in the hunting, when they were in the hunting mode. In this case, seeing this fish just hanging and being smoked was a great way to be preserving. Smoking become a very important way of preserving. Obviously here heat already had to be a component, but understanding that the smoking will be one of those techniques. The big message I need to send you is, you need to remember, who likes smoked salmon? Today we eat it because we enjoy it, right? It's something delicious. But we need to go back in time, centuries and centuries, thousands of years ago, when actually they didn't do it because they love smoked salmon. They did it because they learned at one point that the smoke was a natural way to be preserving, again, the goodness of the earth. And I believe it's very important to understand how what the pleasure of today used to be the survivance of yesterday. And this is what to me is very fascinating. In one moment, humans, we began saying, wow, I don't eat this because it's the only way I can preserve the salmon. I'm eating this because I am really enjoying this salmon. Again, this is one of the real things that is making us humans every day more and more. And it's the pleasure. The salt, way before even we had the fire, used to be understanding that the salt was a very important element in preserving food. We need to remember that even the word salary, as we understand it, came from the meaning of the word salt, because salt was like the salary. People will be paid in salt. Salt was very important. We need salt to survive. Our body needs natural salt. But also salt was the only way that we had, in some parts, especially, for example, let's say the Mediterranean kind of hot climate, where salt was natural because it was forming near the coast in these kind of natural pools, and where people were gathering salt, and they saw that like salt was a very important thing to be preserving meats, to be preserving fish, to be preserving anything. Drying is used to be thinking that is exactly the same thing. The emergence of agriculture, when one moment we had the power of agriculture. How in the ancient Egypt we began like saying, wow, in the Mesopotamia we were able to control what the goodness of the earth will produce at our fingertips. We're going to start producing the things when we want things to be produced. So here we are seeing how all these techniques that today they seem like beef jerky. Wow, you buy it in the 7-Eleven. But that jerky, that dry piece of meat used to be really the only survivance mode that humans had. But here we get to the real moment in truth, the culinary profession. When really as professionals, we began having different people that will be masters in the craft of producing foods. Well, because they were chefs, well, because they were the winemakers, well, because they were the bread makers. Really, in the old Egypt is when we saw that people already they had this kind of important title. They were transforming the goodness of the earth, and they were having a title. We could almost say that some of the first recognized chefs came from that time. And then from there, obviously, many centuries later, going all the way to Europe, when all of a sudden we saw that the chefs had this power of be cooking for the kings, from Louis XV all the way to the Tsars of Russia. So going back in time, this is one of my favorite reads. A guy called Marcus Gavius Apicius, he was a gourmand that lived in the 1st century. And this is one of the most famous books of the Roman Empire. Even it's very funny that itself was not really cookbook, was more like a manifesto of things that really had to do with thoughts about food and thoughts about agriculture and thoughts about how to feed and how to do parties in the Roman Empire, where parties and food were hand by hand in the day to day. But here, cooking techniques was nowhere to be shown. You know, Bartolomeo Scapi, one of the most first chefs, he was the cook of the Pope Pius IV and V in the year 1570, at the end of the 16th century. He wrote a cookbook, the Opera dell'arte cucinare. Already the Pope, who was very, very powerful in Europe during those times, having a chef that began writing books that become very, very important. This book was very important, again, printed in the 1570, because it's probably the first book that we know of that has ingredients like tomatoes that came from the New World and that began being used in Europe. Very important for that reason. Francisco Martinez Montiño, from a guy that cooked for 3 kings, Philip II, Philip III, and he brought in this 1611 this book, later than the previous one we saw, but so funny, he didn't have any ingredient coming from America. It was kind of very funny, because if Spain really was very much who funded the discovery of America, you could argue why a book that came before already was using those ingredients and in his book was not. This was very important because in the case, he was the one that was able to define Spanish cooking for first time. Or this guy, François Lebaran, also a very important book, 1651. He wrote Le Cuisinier Français, the French the French cook. Very important because at the time was used almost the moment where French cooking already was becoming the cooking that established the cooking around the world. This guy, Karen, he cooked for Napoleon. Very important. They call him the father of the big French cooking. Auguste Escoffier, he published Le Guide Culinaire in 1903. Escoffier is a name that we all have to know because French cooking, as we understand it today, was done because of Escoffier. I'm only going through names for you to understand that behind the recipes you are eating today is always people that made them happen at one point in the last century or two especially. Paul Bocuse, he was more known in America because he opened a French restaurant in Disney in the 70s in Epcot, than by being the guy that revolutionized cooking, creating single-handed with the help of others Le Nouvelle Cuisine. Le Nouvelle Cuisine probably is the most powerful in the 20th century, the most powerful thing that happened in cooking. We got a whole bunch of chefs creating Nouvelle Cuisine, and Paul Bocuse was the most influential guy. What Nouvelle Cuisine did was very simple. French cooking was very heavy, a lot of butters, a lot of fats. And all of a sudden, Paul Bocuse and others said, you know what, we need to start cooking lighter. We need to start boiling vegetables less. We need to start putting less butter. We need to start cooking fish less and serving it more like in the Japanese, Asian way, less cooked. All of a sudden, Nouvelle Cuisine changed the way we think. He was very important because thanks to Nouvelle Cuisine, many of the influences that we saw, Alice Waters, we almost got her to come last week. Alice Waters, single-handed, she opened in Berkeley. Everything seems in America happens in Berkeley, outside San Francisco. She opened a restaurant called Chez Panisse, and she was highly influenced by the Nouvelle Cuisine of France. And she began only using vegetables, fruits, and local ingredients from around the San Francisco Bay Area. Fascinating woman, still working hard, but she's one of the people that got all this influence from Paul Bocuse and the Nouvelle Cuisine. Joël Robuchon, now he became, after Paul Bocuse, the most influential French chef. He retired, he got tired, and then he came back 10 years later, and now he has these 25 restaurants around the world, all of them very, very successful. Another name, Juan-Marie Arsac, the father of the Spanish Nouvelle Cuisine. I told you about Paul Bocuse, and I'm trying to make connections between people. This guy, Juan-Marie Arsac, went to see Paul Bocuse early 1970s in Madrid. Paul Bocuse gave a speech. He loved the speech. He was saying we need to change the flavors, make things lighter. He single-handed changed Spanish cooking. He created the Spanish Nouvelle Cuisine, even because he's from the Basque Country, and in Spain it's a lot of nationalisms lately. People are not the Spanish, but they are Catalan or Basque or Andalusian. This guy created the Basque cooking, but very much become the Nouvelle Spanish cooking. Remember his name, because Ferran Adrià single-handed, the same way Paul Bocuse and his counterparts changed 40 years ago cooking by all the different interpretations that they did to the classics, modernizing them. Ferran Adrià did more than that. Single-handed has revolutionized cooking. It's what we call avant-garde or Spanish avant-garde. Some people call it molecular. Anyone has heard the molecular before? Molecular gastronomy. Unbelievable, because all of a sudden molecular seems that it's something new, right? That we are using science, right? But I only want you to think, one of the most influential books on molecular gastronomy, besides the work done by Ferran Adrià the last 20 years, is this guy, Nathan Mitchell. Nathan was the COO of Microsoft. He was really at the early stages of Microsoft, and really he was a driving force in making Microsoft the power it is today. He made a lot of money, obviously, if you are one of the initial founders of Microsoft, imagine. But then he has a passion for cooking. So if you go to his house in Seattle, he lives right next to Bill Gates, you will see that, you know, before he debones a fish, he puts the fish through the X-rays, because he has an X-ray machine for fish. It's obvious, right? I mean, come on, people, you don't have one at home. So Nathan Myhrvold, single-handed, we're going to see a lot of photos from him, has revolutionized. He's done a book. The book is worth $1,500, I think, and probably less.
Yes, but it's expensive.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like
I
200,
paid
300.
$1,500, so
Did you?
you buy on Amazon? All right.
Yeah.
So very expensive. Well, now he has like 7, 8 books. The entire collection is becoming, and now it's out of print. I think he'll do more. But long story short, Nathan Myhrvold really, a guy that is the first time that we have somebody that is not a chef, all of a sudden becoming one of the most influential people in cooking. Unbelievable to me. But then I've been talking to you about France, and about Europe, about in Spain, and it seems that cooking only came from Europe, right? Then if we think about other countries, what happened? Nothing happened in India? Nothing happened in Ethiopia? It's very funny, right? The big message here is that I don't know you, but I can tell you about me. I grew up under everything is French kind of point of view when we are talking about cooking. And all of a sudden, one day was no French anymore. Now it's everything. Now it's Swedish nouvelle cuisine, it's Australian nouvelle cuisine, was American nouvelle cuisine, it's Peruvian nouvelle cuisine. And this is food for thought, because we need always to remember that in cooking, and probably happen in every other profession, I don't care what profession you are in or what you want to become, that seems somebody is the one that has the power. The French controlled the power of cooking for 300-400 years. 200-300 years. Everything was French. They gave all the names, like Escoffier, Carême, some of the people I show you. So everything around the world become very French-centered. Even we understand that in China, probably they have 10 times more recipes than in all Europe combined. But because we don't open a door to those foreign worlds, we don't know. So the question here will be, and for you, if you have high interest in this profession, who was the Paul Bocuse of China? Who was the Escoffier of China? Who was the Apicius 2,000 years ago of China? And you're going to say, Jose, why should I care? I want to be a lawyer. Well, yes. But probably if you want to be a lawyer, you can be asking the same in your own profession. Because to me, the understanding of the people before us in my craft, in the cooking craft, is giving me a very good insights of understanding that the world is so much bigger than the one we understand and recognize. And then if we talk about who likes this, who likes to eat bugs in the morning? You? Welcome.
Not in the morning.
What?
Not in the morning.
At what time?
Lunch.
Lunchtime. Yeah, you're like me. I go to one of my restaurants to have a taquito of worms from Mexico. The worms that come from the cactus, the el maguey, or it's not technically a cactus, from the plant maguey. Or Roberto, ¿cómo se llama? Ladies and gentlemen, I have here my partner. I just saw him, Roberto Alvarez, the one that took me to Washington 20 years ago. ¿Cómo se llaman los chapulines? That you like so much? So anyway, Roberto and I, we've been friends and partners many years, but we had chapulines, which is this cricket. Did you ever have crickets? I mean, come on, they're great, they're delicious. So I'm only telling you this also like the cooking, right? If we don't know the cooking of faraway places, we don't understand anything in life. If we don't understand that these people that may enjoy this, it's people that maybe if they see a hot dog, they say, you eat hot dogs. For you it's normal because you see it every day, it's part of our culture. But for other people, to put a piece of meat that looks weird inside a piece of bread that has a cat in the middle can be weird too. Like, wow, that's the way you eat. So I want you only to have that moment, that thought process, okay? Because we need to understand how others feed themselves, what other ingredients. Today we have TV, today we have newspapers, we have magazines, today we have books. Today knowledge is everywhere, but that doesn't mean that we understand what's behind that knowledge we have. And to go through a thinking process that is some people that maybe they don't only find this delicious, But in the same way we talk about the smoke, or we talk about the smoked salmon, or the beef jerky, was people that before they began eating this because maybe there was no other source of protein in the part of the world. Techniques of cooking are many, guys. We can be going in so many different ones. Poaching, steaming, those are probably things you are doing every day. When you are boiling pasta, when you are cooking pasta, you are boiling. Do you ever bother to think what happens behind boiling? But use understanding, understanding what happens with roasting, with grilling, with smoking, with stewing, with sous vide, with poaching. All of a sudden, we have all these techniques that are unbelievable and are more than to say cooking. We're not cooking. We are doing a specific technique. And in the craft of cooking, we try to really be those people that we master as many as possible. For example, grilling. Who likes to grill? Who helped grill daddy in the weekend? You all like grilling. Nathan, the guy I showed you, the scientist in the last slide of the chef, this comes from the modernist cuisine, and they've done hundreds of photos, always cutting. If you take a look at this photo is showing us so many things, right? This photo, to a degree, is telling us, you see all the moisture that is leaving out of the burger. This photo is telling us that for grilling, it's better to be grilling with pieces of meat that they are not too big. That it's better to do pieces that they are small. So the grilling can be happening at a very hot temperature with the coals, and so the cooking somehow sears the outside and gives flavor, and somehow maintains the inside very moist. So a photo can be read in so many different ways. I love those photos because that photo, to a degree, we can be talking about an hour on the art of grilling. A duck that can be cooked upside down to recreate Chinese cooking. We know that boiling, right? Temperature in Fahrenheit is what? In Celsius is 100 degrees, right? I only want you to think about this photo. What do you think is bubbles in the water? Any idea? Even next week is the science class, but any idea what bubbles happen? It's funny, right? So you read and they tell you that all these pots, even when they are very new, is microscopic kind of holes. Huh? How you call it?
Operations.
Right? Or little what?
Operations.
Operations? Apparitions. Apparitions, little cracks. So the air is coming from outside in. And happens that because the water surface tension in the water is so high, all those cracks, the water cannot cover all the little cracks that you find. Water doesn't have the power. And then what happens? That you have a bubble of oxygen, of air in there. And what happens when you apply heat to air? It expands. And then when you have that happening, you get the bubbles, and the bubbles try to escape, and they try to go back out. And that's when this happens thousands of times, you have all those bubbles. So next time you are boiling green beans, try to put your eyes underneath to see if you are able to see the cracks. And if not, imagine for a second. So to me, this photo is amazing because it's telling us precisely this. Or in the case of the carrot, did you ever boil a carrot before? Great, you don't like carrots. Did you taste the water? You throw the water out. Why? Well, carrots, they have a lot of sugars. And the sugars, believe it or not, they end dissolving in the water. By the sugars breaking away from the carrots is one of the reasons actually carrots become soft. But you drink the water and it's sweet. And you are like freaking, like, wow, the water is tastier than the carrot. The big message I want to send you with this is that part of the craft of cooking, you can be going to school and be studying for 10 years. But if on your own you are not able to be finding those answers, that's about how long you study, you'll never learn enough. And this is the fascinating thing about the craft of cooking, that everything you're doing, you should be thinking, because something very amazing may be happening. So let's put the video. This is from Ferran Adrià, my mentor, my master, my friend, the best chef in the history of the world. No, it is. Don't laugh. It's beyond imagination. Next year we'll have him here. So, you know, if you don't pass, you'll see. So this is a simple recipe that you could cook at home, and especially if you want to preserve water. This will be a very unique technique.
Aquí tenemos aceite de oliva con ajo. Siempre el ajo se pone con aceite frío. Porque si no, ¿qué nos pasa?
Take the voice down.
Que
I forgot.
Uy, que se nos ha quemado. Entonces, siempre con
That's what happens. Me, I speak English and Spanish, and I don't realize when I speak one.
pescado, un caldo.
So here he's showing us how to make this pasta. Who likes pasta? Who likes clams?
Rehogado.
So you got it. I'm showing you a recipe you can cook tomorrow.
Echamos
So you put some oil and you put some garlic.
mucho perejil.
And then he adds some parsley.
Reguardaron un poco. Hasta aquí.
You see the garlic? Like it's moving? Do you see it? We call this, the garlic is dancing.
Buena calidad.
We call it. When the garlic is dancing, add the parsley. Beautiful. So take a look what we do here. Can you stop it 1 second?
Siempre quiere.
This I remember a friend, he was in Hunter College, he called me. Jose, how I cook? I'm like, oh yeah, saute with garlic, same thing. And this is real. Saute with garlic, then add the parmesan and add an egg and you have a pasta. Then he calls me because 2 hours later, the pasta was born. Like born. And he said, Jose, I'm not able to make it soft. So this is the amazing thing about the craft of cooking. Now all of you probably know what do you do with pasta. But you think for a second like you've never been in a kitchen before. You've never seen your mom, your dad, and you may be the smartest person in the world. But without the craft and the learning, if you don't know that you have to boil pasta to make it softer, so that happened to a friend of mine, which is, I cannot believe I have that kind of friends. So, no, don't joke about it, I mean.
En Italia los comí de esta manera. Y han sido de los mejores.
So now we saute a little bit the pasta. Actually, this is a good technique. If you brown the pasta, it's always going to be tastier. Free of charge. Okay? Okay, don't talk, keep going. And now we need what? We need H2O, we need moisture, right? But why is this good? Do you know how much water we're going to be saving? Don't you understand that Italians may be the ones that make earth go out of water? Okay, that was a joke. And then you add the water, and depending on the pasta, some pastas cook in 5 minutes, some pastas cook in 8, some pastas cook in 10. Make sure you use a pasta that is not very thick. All right? Capellini number 10 is perfect. Very short, very thin. And then he adds the moist. And the same water is not only the liquid, but the same water is becoming the sauce, which to me is a fascinating, simple recipe. So he had the clams. Okay, show the clams again. Bingo, and they open, and we are in business. But take a look what happens with that recipe. The clams are not open yet. Oh yeah, you saw the one over there is open. He's looking, he's saying, what's happening here? It's warm. Okay, what is he saying? Great. And now leave it salt, but the clams sometimes are very sweet. He's gonna eat, and he always says it's delicious, because every time he cooks, he says it's delicious, sure. He doesn't have a grandmother. You understood that, right? You see? Perfecta. Okay, next. Okay, what happened? You like this recipe? Cool, right? What happened with those clams? Who likes New England clam chowder? Who is from New England? Okay, what's wrong with New Englanders and clams? What they've done to you? I love New England clam chowder, but the what? The what? Gohan. Yeah, great. Me too. I don't want to pronounce it. What's the problem with the clams? Let's talk now pure technique. What was the problem with that dish? It's brilliant, right? You can make a pasta. The clams, even though he barely cooked them, they're going to be okay. But the clam loses water in a second and cooks in a fraction of a second. If this was a science class, we will be talking the difference between a piece of meat protein and a piece of fish protein. Okay, and one cooks quick and why the other cooks, it takes longer, right? But because that's no science. The clam, it's chewy, right? You put it in, and to have such a beautiful thing, overcook, it's very sad. Don't you agree with me? So I'm gonna show you a technique. We have the technique of the clams. How to open oysters? Who tried to open an oyster before? And who was successful? All of you. It's hard, yes? That's why we go to oyster places. I'm going to show you a technique that helps you open clams, cockles, oysters, very quickly, preserving the quality of raw, but somehow giving it the right form. It's almost like if you take the oyster to the sauna, to the spa. Same technique. And when you go to the spa, how do you feel? Great. The same thing happens to the clam in this case. It feels so good that the dish is going to be astonishing and gives us the power to have all the juices that the clam is going to release to make whatever we want. Let me show you. Very simple technique. Another technique that defines what cooking should be.
Y hay una técnica muy sencilla para poderlo conseguir. Tenemos agua hirviendo con un poquito de sal. En este caso tenemos berberechos y con una espumadera.
So those are Spanish berberechos, okay, that we call cockles. Take a look what happens. A lot of water. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Come on, man. I just wrote a recipe. It's only 5. All right, 5. You had it like 7. Take a look what happens. They're still kind of close, but they already open. And take a look how shiny they are. They are open, but they are still raw. Because only we kept them 3, 4, 5 seconds in the water.
Porque igual como nosotros, los moluscos también se mueren. Y nunca lo podemos abrir.
Wow.
Si no se
Yusi said that, like people, the cockles also die. I don't know what to think about that. But because he's thinking ahead, what he's saying is, it's kind of, yeah, he shocked the oyster, the clam, the cockle, the muscles that keep the bivalve close, kind of they relax. And so if you are very precise, you are able to always have a perfect open clam oyster without no effort. And those are the subtleties of cooking. The subtleties of cooking is that we've learned through the span of hundreds of years, of centuries, to understand that now we don't need to put so much salt to cure ham. We don't have to have it so many weeks under salt. Everything about the craft of cooking is probably resumed in this video. That the subtleties of cooking is very much like if you put perfume on your own. Little bit is perfect. Too much, you're like, what happened? You then took a shower. With cooking, it's exactly the same. What has happened to cooking is that the craft of cooking is giving us the opportunity to be very subtle in the temperature, in the time, and that's the big difference. So we went from the boiling, immersing something in water, to the steaming. Almost we could say that the one before was kind of boiling and steaming before at the same time, if you think about it for a second. And here what I love about this recipe is how all of a sudden the steam doesn't happen. The water is not in direct contact with the vegetable, in this case the broccoli. But one of the things that I love the most is like if we were able now to have a microscope and go deeper, and we will be very, very, very close to a piece of broccoli, actually we will see that the broccoli has like condensation, little droplets of water. But why? If we are steaming, everything around the broccoli is vapor. Well, to me, it's just not learning or no, it's just thinking that around the broccoli, if you take a look, it's gonna be all those pieces. And it's because, in this case, the broccoli, when you put it at the beginning, is going to be cold. And the heat that is coming from the outside, as the vapor is touching the surface of the broccoli, condensation is going to be happening. And then for me, when I'm looking at that, and sometimes I cook at home with a glass kind of pot, which is very cool. Very cool because you learn so much when you are able to cook and seeing what's happening inside. Only makes me think, wow, why this condensation happens. This is the process we should be always going through every time we are trying to cook. Ask yourself sometimes the why, and trying to see if with the answer to the why, you are able to come up with something astonishing. Poaching and sautéing, another amazing technique. So on the poaching and sautéing, to sauté, everyone knows what it is. It's to have a pan, hot, usually some fat, can be pork, can be vegetable oil, can be olive oil, that we are able to cook very high heat, very quickly. I'm going to show you a technique that it's another video that I did going to Spain, which is a tortilla. And here I want to talk to you about the concepts. Because here we've been talking about the cooking techniques. For example, who knows how to make an omelette? Everybody. Omelette and egg is amazing, right? It's the best. Probably eggs are very tired right now because everyone seems to cook them in the form of omelettes. And eggs sometimes tell cooks, Jose, come on, can you come up with new ways to use me? I'm tired of being an omelette. But I only want you to understand the omelette is a concept. If you know how to make an omelette of egg, you have the power of doing 500,000 different recipes. Are you agreeing with me? Because you can do cheese, you can do peppers, you can do onions, you can do green peas, you can do tuna. All of a sudden, the power of one omelette, the concept, the technique, gives you the opportunity to do hundreds of others. Here I'm going to show you, again, they are from my videos, a Spanish omelette, tortilla española. Who knows tortilla española? Spanish omelette. So here is even a lot of issues about is eggs, potatoes, or is egg, potato, and onion? Everyone is fighting in the north of Spain. This recipe comes from Galicia in the northwest region of Spain. And it's a restaurant called El Manjar. And probably they make the best omelette. You're gonna see me very excited. Very excited. Because it's the first time in my life I saw that omelette made that way. And when I see something for first time, it's amazing. But the most important, and I hope you don't forget this, I got excited. I've made hundreds of thousands of Spanish omelettes in my life. Hundreds of thousands, okay? In the Navy, omelettes. All the officers in the Navy wanted omelettes. Up to here. But one day I go to a place thinking that I'm never going to see anything new. And all of a sudden, I discover an amazing way to make the omelette. Again, how subtlety is key in the craft of cooking. La Coruña, north part of Spain.
Many people come to La Coruña to see the Tower of Hercules. This is a lighthouse built by the Romans almost 2,000 years ago. This town was so important then that Julius Caesar himself came here to visit. Today, no visitor can leave La Coruña without tasting tortilla de patata.
So what it is tortilla de patata? Well, I can tell you that tortilla de patata is what we call in English a Spanish omelette. Two ingredients, potatoes and eggs, that somehow make a very humble dish into a sublime one. And here, I'm taking you to probably the Rolls Royce of tortilla de patata, El Manjar. Let's go inside to see how it's done. José Manuel. Hola. ¿Cómo estás? Vengo a que me hagas una tortilla de patata de esa extraordinaria.
Pues vamos a intentarlo hacerla.
Vamos a ello. He's gonna do the tortilla for all of us. You'll see what a unique thing. ¿Está aquí tu madre? ¿Cómo estamos? Doña Josefa, un besote. This is astonishing because she's the mother of my friend, the chef. You know, this is a 4th generation recipe of tortilla de patata. And here you see her doing the most important part. Cutting these potatoes that grow very close from here, La Coruña, into this kind of tiny pieces, maybe 2 millimeters thick. You see? This is step number 1 in a successful tortilla de patata. So you see, he's putting them in water because he wants to take the starch out. It's very important to clear them of all the starch. Te la vamos a freír, ¿no? Everything is golden about the tortilla. It's golden, the olive oil, the potatoes are gonna be fried until they are golden, hasta que están doradas. The eggs are gonna be golden, and the tortilla is gonna have this beautiful color dorado, a golden color.
Those are the best potatoes I've eaten in my life, like that. I was eating them all the time.
Important moment. Now when the potatoes are hot, he introduces them into these whipped eggs. And now is the moment.
Take a look at the color of the eggs,
As he puts
okay?
the eggs, you're gonna see that they start coagulating kind of instantly.
And take a look what he does now, okay? Because this is an important moment. I mean, you see how excited I am. So right now it's like a crepe.
The omelette is gonna be completely separated from the pan. He puts a cover.
And it's like a thin crepe in the bottom, like, you know, like a very thin film of egg that coagulated.
He does one.
And take a look, you see all the eggs?
Foil goes out.
In that moment I'm saying, this guy doesn't know how to do this. This guy is a terrible chef.
I can look at this.
But actually what he was doing was the right
It's
thing.
astonishing. It's like a liquid.
And now he makes a hole on the top, and take a look what he does with
And
the
now
excess egg.
Makes like a hole
Look
right
at-
in the middle. You see? And this.
In that moment I said, I know nothing about cooking.
So it's an omelette with a liquid center.
Because we didn't have a lot of time. Because we were behind
I
filming.
know you are thinking.
And I thought, I'm leaving. This guy doesn't know how to make an omelette.
I'm gonna eat it.
And then he turns again. And the egg is like, who knows a water bed? Who lives on a water? This is like a water bed omelette. Ha. Look at. You see? It's like, I dream about sleeping in an omelette. But, I mean, no, but think about it. This is a very fascinating moment.
Eggs.
And take a look when we go to eat it.
Es un genio.
I hope I can kiss him again.
Oh. Can we eat it now? This is the moment.
Look at when we cut,
The
okay?
moment I've been waiting for. Take a look at this.
Look at that.
Look at how liquid.
Look at that.
It's like the omelette.
And then the egg is the same sauce.
Oh, the same egg yolk becomes the sauce.
Okay, out. Okay, you understand why I'm so excited? No, come on.
En tu honor y en el suyo.
Eggs and potatoes. Okay, if you are not from that part of Spain and you receive this omelette, you will send it back because it's undercooked. It's amazing, right? And listen, if you don't like to eat your eggs raw, you have your right. But if you don't mind, and you don't know, your lack of knowledge will make you send something back which actually is, like I said before, a Rolls Royce. And this is very important for cooking, but I believe it's very important for anything else we do in our lives. Sometimes, if we are too skeptic about things, skepticism will be behind that dish. So in the moment he was breaking the omelette, I swear to God, I went to my producer, and I told him, let's go. I told him, let's go. This guy is just, I mean, I had that second, let's go. The guy is breaking the omelette. Because I wanted his mother to make it, but she was, very sick and tired, and she couldn't move. So like, the son is gonna make it. So I see the son, and he's doing this, and I'm like, this guy doesn't know how to cook. So anyway, you see why I was so excited? 2 ingredients. Do you see the masterpiece? I tell everybody, when they tell me, Jose, I want to say something new. Go to La Coruña to see this tortilla española. And everyone tells me, to see a potato, an egg omelette, Are you crazy? If you are able to read, you will find this amazing, and an amazing lesson. So we need to keep moving. More techniques, baking. Funny, no? Because today everyone uses ovens. I use ovens for many things, but only to try to understand that we almost know that was kind of ovens used in the old Egypt more than 5,000 years ago, that they were called tandoors, which very much will be like the name that now the tandoori ovens that we see in the Far East. Techniques like frying, understanding that frying today is universal, but frying was very important in olive producing regions of the Mediterranean. But then how Japan has tempura, and now my friends are gonna always say, wow, Jose, everything came from Spain. But tempura came with the Portuguese to Japan. It had to do with the Latin ad temporae, because many of the fish that were being eaten during Lent, if you were a Christian, would be fried, and that was a way to be eating many of the fish and the shrimp at the time when there you were not allowed to be eating meat. So talking about frying, which is the technique like today, is very much at the heart of all the problems with obesity and health, right? Because French fries, poor French, but French fries in the fast food, right? They are associated with negatives today, right? And actually my wife comes from the south of Spain and is a lot of frying. And well, if you see my wife, she doesn't look like has any health issues. And frying is very much in my life. We don't fry every day, but often. But I'm gonna show you another technique with egg, which is the fried egg. And how by the simple caramelization, what we call the Maillard reaction, when you are able to brown any protein, is able to achieve an astonishing fried egg. Let me show it to you. I hope you can be to see the power of one ingredient and how one ingredient can become so many different things. There's the kitchen in my house, by the way.
Swimming pool right here in the edge of a pen.
Take a look at the oil. We make like a water bath, like an oil bath.
And we drop it into the hot oil.
And take a look what happens. The oil is hot, and then the egg white, that's a good photo from under, huh?
Inside
The egg white is gonna cover the egg yolk. And we know that the egg yolk protects.
Good.
It's a very bad heat. It transfers heat very badly. So you saw that moment? You saw the power of a fried egg? All of a sudden when we ordered them in the diner, Robert Easy, I love that technique. That's fine, we move next. Because this is a great way to get the egg whites, covering the egg yolk. We know that the egg whites are an element that transfer heat very badly. Anyone ever ate an Alaska? The baked Alaska is a dessert. Who knows? What's the baked Alaska?
Ice cream
With
meringue on top.
ice cream with meringue, right? So this is a very popular dessert, came from the French, like everything else. And so you are able to bake the ice cream in the oven. And the egg whites with the sugar are outside. And the reason is because the egg white is protecting the heat transfer into the ice cream, so the ice cream doesn't melt. But the meringue gets round and beautiful. And even you can flambe, right? You can put brandy and make a big fire and burn down the restaurant. In the case, is the same thing. Here we are frying the egg. The egg white is protecting the egg yolk. The egg yolk is beautiful and very runny inside. So more techniques. The pot roasting, take a look at that beautiful photo. Yeah, today, techniques, infusions. We need to think like making a tea is a technique. Making a tea is a technique. Has its process, has its history, has its glamour, has its... You cannot put water too hot or too cold. The types of teas are gonna dictate the temperature you're gonna be putting. Everything is a technique. Everything around us when we are associated with cooking is a technique. And the right control of the technique is gonna help us make the best. Extractions out of fish bones and out of different spices. All these bones are inside a bag, okay? And this piece of fish, with this amazing translucent light, we have a lot of different uses and vinegars that gives flavor to this fish. And we achieve the penetration of many of these flavors and aromas inside the fish, because we're able to do this kind of vacuum, we are able to take the air out. We put a lot of pressure that goes inside, makes very flavorful the meat. And was this technique that already is almost 400 or 500 years ago, there was a German scientist that in the 1656 invented what was the first vacuum machine. 30 horses couldn't separate these two domes. 30 horses. Why is this important to cooking? Precisely because I was telling you, 400 years later, sous vide was perfected, sous vide was invented in the 1970s, and now you will see many of these bags in many restaurants with vegetables and meats. And this is a machine that we call a runner that allows us to control the temperature to perfection. So now, I was telling you about the degrees. We can control use a fraction of a degree, and allows us to have a control that we never had before. So I want to show you a technique using this vacuum, the power of taking air outside a bag and sealing its content, and how we can be using to do things in a whole new way. This will be a dish that will be part of what we all call the molecular cooking. In this case, we call it use avant-garde. Who likes clementines? We're in season. My clementine. Take a look at the clementines, okay? We boil them in water, and then we refresh them in ice. We are taking out all the bitterness of the zest, some of the oils outside that are very bitter. We stop the cooking, and now it's important. The vacuum technique I was telling you, the sous vide, and we put syrup. And now we're gonna take the air out of that bag. Are you with me? Now we're gonna put it in the runner, and we cook it during 2 hours and a half at 90 Celsius degrees. And you see the clementine, it's been cooking for 2 hours and a half, but looks like a whole clementine. That's what we try to do, to preserve the integrity of the ingredient. And we do this cross, and we're gonna take out all the remaining pieces of the clementine that is highly overcooked. We don't want it at this time. So what we have here is the perfect clementine, the zest, but in this case it's like sugar, it's like clementine candy. Inside is completely empty. Here we are making a sauce of clementine. With the fresh. And here is one more technique, dehydrator. How to dehydrate a liquid by not boiling it, but by putting it here during 2 hours, and we are reducing, but maintaining the integrity of the clementine flavor. Here we put some gelatin in some of that, clementine juice. And now we're gonna be blending it. We are adding another type of gelatin. We add some syrup. And what we are making here is a sauce of clementine, pure clementine. What we're gonna be doing is making sure that we have a very nice texture on that clementine. You're gonna see it in 30 seconds. Here now we make a caramel with sugar. We cook it to 103 Celsius degrees, and we add pumpkin seeds. So with the juices before, we made a clementine sauce, and we made a clementine sorbet. You're about to see it. So here we caramelize these pumpkin seeds twice. We add some salt, and now is the moment of truth. We get the clementine, and we fill it up with this clementine sorbet. Then in the plate, with the clementine sauce we did, we do this spiral. This is pumpkin seed oil. We put the caramelized pumpkin seeds, baby basil, rosemary, and now we're gonna cut a segment of the clementine with the clementine sorbet. Beautiful segment with the caramelized rind. We put it on the plate, clementines with pumpkin seeds. How was it? Good? Clementines. You saw the difference between the paella and this dish. One very traditional, the other one very modern. But nonetheless, there are techniques.
Don't try this at home.
Don't try it. Techniques now that they are more modern, like freeze rind, like this woman, Agnes B. Marshall, the first woman, the scientist that used liquid nitrogen to make sorbet. Techniques like espherification. You want to see one recipe doing this? Can we show one more recipe? You want to see it? Can we put the tomato? Okay, this is, we're going to make, who knows Del Chihuly? Who is from Seattle? You know Chihuly? Amazing, right? He's an amazing artist that makes blown glass. You know, he blows glass into amazing things. And then he goes to Venice in Italy, and he throws thousands of those beautiful balls of glass into the channel of Venice. And everyone is saying, what is this doing here? That's what he does. He interacts with nature. So I'm going to show you a video recreating the work of an artist, and you're going to see two techniques: caramelized olive oil and espherification of tomato. So here we're going to caramelize olive oil for first time. This is isomalt, which is a type of sugar that is unsweet, and we are able to transform it into this syrup. Take a look what happens with gravity. We put the olive oil, and as the olive oil goes down, takes an entire piece of the sugar. Hold on. You didn't say, wow? That was never done before. That was never done. That's amazing, okay? So here we are making a soup of tiger nuts. This is pure extraction. We milk the tiger nuts, water, we get the milk of the tiger nuts. Now, take a look at this. Tomato water, pure tomatoes. Espherification. We put an ingredient in the tomato called gluconolactate. Gluconolactate is in yogurt. And in the water is sodium alginate, which is a water, it's a salt of seaweed. And by the reaction between the gluconolactate and the sodium alginate, we create a gelation. We form a very thin film of gelatin outside the liquid. Isn't that amazing? We are able to control liquids now. So we put them in a dehydrator. Take a look what happened when we cut the tomato. It has a very thin membrane outside. Astonishing. It's just a new form of yellow. That was a joke. And now we put them in the traditional olive oil canister with rosemary and garlic. And here we are doing an homage to the farmers. And actually in the Super Bowl yesterday was a beautiful ad empowering farmers. So you could argue that's a beautiful dish empowering farmers. So here we did this at the end of spring, beginning of summer, when we had the most quantity of spring and summer items. Morels, chanterelles from Oregon, asparagus, white asparagus, potatoes, green peas, fava beans, physalis, baby carrots, the dried tomato, so much work for that, rhubarb, radishes, baby spinach, narcissium flower, I don't know which one this was, baby radishes, all kinds of baby sprouts, baby beets, the tops of the beets, baby arugula, cucumber flower, borage flower, a narcissium flower, the petals, rosemary, thyme flowers, the olive oil caramelized, and we finish with the soup of the tiger nuts. That was an homage to that Chihuly, the Chihuly garden salad. How was it? Good? All right, so we began with the paella. We began with the paella, right? Pure fire, pure tradition. We ended with this dish, cold, no heat. Take a look from where we come and take a look where we are. The question here is not what's better, if the tradition or if the modernity. The thing here is to make sure that everything is good. And the craft of cooking, understanding the craft of cooking, spending a lot of hours, give us the option to make sure that doesn't matter what we do, a New England clam chowder, or the next amazing dish that may change mankind, are done with respect to the craft of cooking. Questions? We have 10 minutes. Yes?
Can you tell us your secret?
What recipe?
Your secret on Twitter?
My secret for what?
The secret. On Twitter.
On Twitter. On Twitter.
Oh, the Twitter! Man, these marketing people, they have to do something to make a living. I forgot. I cannot say it yet. They go, do you? Okay. I can't. It's not. In 1 to 10, it's like a 2. But it's okay. Okay, next.
The omelet that you dream about sleeping in, was it cooked in butter or oil?
What do you think, guys? Oil. Always oil. I love butter. Only olive oil. The way of the future is olive oil. That doesn't mean that the way of the future is no butter. But I think butter is going down and oil is going up. Because it's the right thing to do. But I love butter too, in the right proportions. A mashed potato with butter is astonishing, but a mashed potato with olive oil is astonishing. Actually, believe it or not, the first time a mashed potato with olive oil was created was not by a Spanish chef, which we are the biggest producer of olive oil in the world. So you will think will happen in Spain. Was a guy from Switzerland in the 70s, Freddy Girardet. Makes any sense? A guy from Switzerland, they've never seen olive oil in their life in the 60s. But that's the big message of how people that come from other cultures are probably more capable of seeing the potential of other cultures. That's why the ones that we live in America or in India or in China, we need to be good at being able to read within our own cultures. Because to me it's fascinating that this guy from Switzerland that never moved away from Switzerland was able to come up with mashed potato and olive oil. Brilliant. And now we use it, we say the Freddy Girardet potatoes. To me fascinating, but butter, olive oil.
What is your favorite thing to cook?
My favorite thing to cook? Okay, yesterday, for the Super Bowl, I made a escudella y carn d'olla, which is a dish from Catalonia, which is every meat I could buy in the supermarket was like 24 different meats. The tail and the chicken and the bacon and the jaw and the everything and the everything, with a lot of vegetables, carrots and potatoes and cabbage and turnips and then we make also a meatball, and then we make the soup. And first we eat the soup with some pasta, and then we eat the vegetables, and then we eat the meat. Me, I hate to cook twice the same. Always. I think I don't like to repeat dishes. Why? Because once I do it a few times, I become very good at doing them. Sorry. Yes, I know. yeah, you can tweet about it. This bastard. Who he thinks he is? Guys, repetition makes you very good, yes? You agree with me? I like the challenge of failure. So me, I'm always like, I'm gonna make a chocolate souffle. Why? Because it's not my comfort zone. Because souffle is so French that I try to be away from that. But when I do it and I have like, will I succeed? You know, so me, I love to repeat dishes, to don't repeat dishes. I like the challenge of the failure, the option of failure, which in cooking is the fascinating thing. You are 1 second away from failing. And that's what makes my profession so fascinating. It's no other profession that gives you that, I'm gonna fail. That's why I don't like to repeat dishes. I like to do new ones. Yes?
What's an example of a revolutionary
Okay, I am not as smart as I may look. And we're about to, we're working now with NASA. Just we began, we are just talking. But NASA now is spending a lot of money in how they're going to go to Mars. And they're going to spend a lot of money in how they're going to feed the astronauts to go to Mars. And because it's going to be very good for mortal that they have good food, they're going to be putting few chefs to help them feed them better. And if I'm one of them, I'm going to be learning more from them because we know techniques that can be used to feed the astronauts for the so many months that it's going to take the trip to Mars. So if it's one, it's not new. I think I mentioned in the first class, which is understanding water surface tension. So you're going to have the talk next week with my two good friends the two professors from Harvard. But a technique will be understanding water surface tension, and we're making a cocktail where the technique is more a gimmick than a dish, but it's a good gimmick. If I'm able now to turn this bottle upside down, and the water is not going to be leaving the bottle. The water is going to stay inside the bottle, and open, I mean. That's fascinating, to be able to do this with a glass, with a cocktail, and the liquid remains inside. Unbelievable. So that's one that we are working on. We did a flour. I don't have the flour, no? So I'll show it to you in another class. It's the technique we came up with is a flour that goes on top of the water. Are you with me? Like it was a nenúfar, you call it in English? Nenúfar? Nenúfar? Un nenúfar. Is the water lilies. The water lilies? Oh, you have it. Wow, you're good. Okay, take a look at this.
This is stunning, actually.
This is called, this is a pipette. And used to be made out of plastic. This is a guy called John Bush, a crazy professor at MIT. Great guy, loves to cook, loves to eat. So he exchanges anything for food. So I cook him, he gives us knowledge. So out of all his learnings, his work, we were able to recreate this pipette. This is made out of gelatin. And when we lift up the flour closes itself and takes with it a drop of water. Are you with me? But we don't understand what are we going to be using this for. It's still not very good. It's not very tasty. Because we have to put too much gelatin. So we are not there yet. But this is one of those things we're very excited. And probably it's going to take us a couple more of years. Are you with me? So this is an important moment in my life. Because it's the first time ever that this was done with a flour. Take a look. Do you see it? Do you understand the power of this? So you bring it to your mouth, touches the mouth, the flour drops the drop of water, and then you do it again. It's like giving a kiss. I mean, better than the GoDaddy kiss of yesterday. Okay, one more question. Yes.
Okay. So a lot of these really interesting new modern cooking techniques require all sorts of really advanced stuff.
Yeah.
Hydrators, just all these processes, all these machines that are really outside the grasp of the vast majority of the world.
Yeah.
A lot of the cooking that people really love and really respect is like the stuff their mom made, their grandmother made. It doesn't require big, complicated machinery. So I'm curious, do you think that it's interesting or bizarre or strange that a lot of where food is going is almost less and less accessible to everyday people? It's more and more complicated, more and more mechanical, as opposed to the stuff you can make at home in the kitchen.
I agree with you. I don't want you to make this at home. It's no disagreement. The last dish you saw, restaurants like that mine, that we do this, is 0.001. I agree with you. Do you think I want to be eating that salad every day of my life? Are you not? Actually, it's a great salad, though. That one is brilliant. The issue is, how do you eat that salad? Because I made that dish, and then I have some people that they do this. They get a fork, and they get a spoon, and that's my fault. And they do. You know what they do? They treat it like a Caesar. But it's not their fault. They don't know better. It's my fault. I'm supposed to give them tweezers. Because the way to eat that salad is one by one. So it's Everyone has to be learning how to cook, but everyone has to be learning how to eat. But again, these new techniques are not any different than microwaves. Who has a microwave at home? Who uses the microwave for anything else than making hot water or hot milk? I mean, anyone reheats food? Who cooks with a microwave? Who cooks an entire meal with a microwave? No, how many? How many? It's important for me to know. You are able to cook. That's brilliant. Because we are using it for more things. Now we are making quick breads. And we could actually, in the university, do an entire book of the microwave. But the microwave has been forever and is more than 70 years old. And it's fascinating. And we use it. But me, I agree with you. Me, I want the traditional cooking. But remember, the traditional cooking of today, 300 years ago, was the modern cooking. The most amazing technique, if you go to Starbucks, and I don't want you to go to Starbucks, but if you go, and you order the mocha with the whipped cream, take a look at the machine they use. It's a machine that works with nitro oxide cartridges. And they are able to make whipped cream used in a second, without having to whisk, which is brilliant. Starbucks is becoming very mainstream. Would you agree? And this is a technique that is unbelievably futuristic. That whipped cream, if I don't tell you, is as good as the whipped cream done in the traditional way. So the issue here is not, again, modernity versus tradition. Is the way we're doing that cooking and the way we are feeding ourselves improving the speed, the health of who we are. But the craft of cooking, to me, are more traditional than modern. But as a professional, what keeps me going is the modern. Because the traditional, I already know it. I want more.
Okay. I know many of you have to dash off, but before you go, I want you to really think about the final project. Some groups are quite small, and you might find it a little challenging to do this in a small group. So if you can put some of those groups together, that would be fabulous. But we really want you to start thinking about the project. We want these projects to be fabulous. So I want you to really start planning and thinking about them.
And the cooking show, everyone is doing a cooking show.
Just some of them.
Some of them?
Yeah.
What happened here? Make a good one, okay? Thank you guys for coming.